Guess who's back? Back again. Yeah, it's time, you guys. Sit down, grab a snack, because it's time that we revisit the Vaseline apologetics. The defense of Vaseline is back. Underrated, recession-proof, if you will, although don't jinx it, skincare product, because it's very affordable. And reminder, before we get into this, give this video a thumbs up, but a reminder, you don't have to buy name brand Vaseline. Yeah, I have a tricked out one that they sent me. No, this is not sponsored. You don't have to buy the name brand one. Go to the Dollar Tree. They have Vaseline version there. $1.25. Hopefully they don't jack the price of that up. But let's get into it. This is underrated. Flies under the radar. A lot of scare tactics around the good stuff. Listen, this has been around for so long. It's very safe. But wait a minute, isn't it derived from petrochemicals from the petroleum industry? So, I mean, it's highly purified and refined. This is one of the safest things you can put on your skin. It's free of common allergens. For example, it's widely used in medicine. If you get a burn and you end up in the burn unit, they're going to be using Vaseline impregnated gauze on your wounds. It's amazing, and it's very safe. When I hear people demonize Vaseline, it's like petroleum jelly, to me and to many of you, because I saw a comment about this recently, it's like that scene in My Big Fat Greek Wedding where the dad is like all about Windex. Yeah, Vaseline, that's it for me. It's a very cost-effective skincare product. It can be used to the face, first of all. It can be used to the face to reduce transepidermal water loss. And while it doesn't have any humectants in it, by reducing transepidermal water loss, it does improve hydration in the skin. People will say, is it safe for acne-prone skin? There's nothing unsafe about this for acne-prone skin. It does not cause acne. And in fact, there's a study that shows that people with acne who use petroleum jelly on their face have fewer acne spots as a result. So it can help because, as I pointed out before, with acne, there is also a skin barrier issue going on that should be addressed to not only make drying and irritating acne treatments more tolerable, but to cut down on irritation and inflammation that aggravates the acne. So this is an option for moisturizing the face. Before we move on though, the number one downside of using petroleum jelly, aka Vaseline, whether it be on your face or elsewhere on the body, is that it will slow down the evaporation of sweat, which can make you overheat and can trap sweat in the eccrine sweat gland. Not your pores, your facial pores, but the eccrine sweat pores. Totally different pore. Totally not even associated with the follicle, okay? The eccrine sweat pore is completely different. It's on your palms. It's on your soles of your feet. You don't have hair here, okay? So it has nothing to do with the hair follicles. It's separate. But that bad boy produces sweat, not to detoxify you, okay? Another myth. It does it because the sweat, which is mostly water and some salt, it evaporates and it cools you as it evaporates. It's a miraculous phenomenon to cool us off. But petroleum jelly, because it is so good at reducing transepidermal water loss out of the skin, it traps that sweat to the surface of the skin and slows down the evaporation of it, making it difficult for you to cool yourself, and can plug up those sweat glands and cause miliaria. Miliaria. The R in there is key. Miliaria is fancy medical speak for a heat rash, and it can happen on the face and it can look like acne. Check out my recent video on the Skin SOS where we break down the differences between miliaria and acne and how to know what it is exactly you're dealing with. But they're very itchy, uncomfortable, and they can look like little pus bumps. It's related to the blockage of the sweat gland. Notice I said miliaria. I did not say milia. Contrary to popular misconception, petroleum jelly on the face does not cause milia. Milia are little cysts that form either spontaneously, often in young children, actually little babies commonly have them. They can occur as a result of various genetic and or skin conditions. In adults, they often happen secondary to some underlying skin injury. Maybe you had a cosmetic procedure that went a little deep and this is a side effect. Maybe you got a sunburn or you have a lot of sun damage. You can get milia as a result of that because the deeper layers are impaired and these cysts form. They're just little cysts. I'll show you a picture of them here lingering under the skin. As a matter of fact, I'll show you a picture of this set of milia that popped up after somebody got injured playing pickleball. So yeah, happened after skin injury, not from using petroleum jelly or any kind of skincare product. good. You can use petroleum jelly around your eyelids as an eye cream. You want to be careful to not get it within a millimeter of the lash line, because if it gets in your eyes, that's ever happened to you, well, all of a sudden your vision is blurry. It's not pleasant. And so you want to avoid that. But just using a tiny amount of petroleum jelly around the eyes, that's your eye cream. Petroleum jelly really shines for the lips, for reducing chapped lips. Put it on at nighttime when water loss out of the skin is even greater from your lips, so it will keep them hydrated. Really good in the corners of the mouth for reducing breakdown of the skin there by pooling of saliva. Some people have more of a downturned mouth, the corners of their mouth, more inclined to get what's called angular cheilitis, and the inciting event there is collection of saliva that breaks down the skin barrier. Next thing you know, you have colonization of that impaired barrier in the corners of your mouth with candida yeast, which naturally colonize the inside of your mouth, and they make their way out there, and they're like, oh wow, we got a new comfortable spot here, and that is uncomfortable. It's not a pleasant thing to deal with. Petroleum jelly. Petroleum jelly is also wonderful and should be a first line thing that you reach for if you get a cut, a scrape. First, you want to, of course, wash that out with a little dilute soapy water, and then apply petroleum jelly, because it essentially acts as second skin, protecting the underlying wound bed and keeping it moist, which is essential for proper wound healing. It's much better to use petroleum jelly than an antibiotic ointment like Neosporin, because these antibiotic ointments, newsflash, they're in a petroleum jelly base, but they have antibiotics in them that are not particularly helpful and oftentimes end up causing more harm than good for many people, and just put unnecessary antimicrobials out there in the world that can set the stage later on for potential emergence of resistant microorganisms, which we don't want. Just stick to plain petroleum jelly for cuts and scrapes. Speaking of cuts and scrapes and injuries, petroleum jelly is amazing for preventing and treating blisters. Preventing because it lubricates the skin surface to cut down on frictional forces that would otherwise lead to blister formation. So if you get a new pair of shoes, might be a good idea to put a little petroleum jelly in areas where the straps are rubbing. But when you do get a blister, first of all, don't pop the blister. Let it sit there. The blister, that roof of the blister, it is a natural bandage trying to protect the underlying skin, which shouldn't really be exposed to the air. Okay, eventually that will break. Eventually it'll break. Clear liquid will ooze out, and at that point you'll have a flaccid roof, right? Don't cut that away. Don't peel it off, because that will cause more harm than good. Instead, just gently drape it over the base of the blister. Put a glob of petroleum jelly to really kind of glue it in place, and then act as a protective second skin shield. It'll change the game for you in healing blisters, let me tell you. Now, speaking of blisters, if you get a blistering sunburn, ouch, I would also advise the same thing for the blisters of the sunburn. Let's talk about nails though. Petroleum jelly for your nails is amazing and underutilized, because if you put it around the nail folds, it helps to reduce moisture getting up under there, which ultimately leads to nail ridging. So it's great for the health of your nail plate, but it also helps improve moisture content in the skin, allowing for better turnover of the skin cells. As a result, your cuticles will be a lot healthier. They won't be all dry and crumbly and peely. It's great. Speaking of hands and fingernails, petroleum jelly is wonderful for dry hands. Here's what you do. Put it on again at nighttime. That's when water loss out of the skin, it tends to be greater, likes to sneak on out. Put some petroleum jelly on your hands and cover them up with either cotton gloves or a sock. Most people are like, I cannot sleep that way. That sounds sadistic. Fine, but hang out that way for like an hour. If you can sleep that way, give it a try. Give it a try. You don't doubt your abilities. Give it a try. Wake up the following morning. Not only is it great for the dry hands, but your fingernails will thank you. Do it as frequently as you can tolerate, and it's wonderful. Also, we already talked about it for blisters, but it's also wonderful for dry, cracked heels. Improves moisture content, lubricates the skin, game changer. Now, here's something I do a lot that is interesting. It can be used as a body moisturizer. I like to use it when I get out of the shower. I pat dry the skin with a microfiber towel just to get off visible drips of water, and then I immediately smear on petroleum jelly. Now, admittedly, this can kind of get onto your clothing. So what you want to do is get an old pair of cotton pajamas that you don't care about, put those on over. It really traps all of that in and helps tremendously hydrate the skin. It's kind of a go-to remedy for eczema that is widely used in dermatology, called the soak and smear technique. You soak in a tub to really hydrate up the stratum corneum. You get out, you gently pat dry the skin, and you smear petroleum jelly, and then you cover up with some light cotton pajamas to really lock it all in. skin, and it can really turn around a bad eczema flare-up. Now, a lot of people are intrigued to use petroleum jelly to their eyelashes. I've seen a lot of people on TikTok claiming that it grew their eyelashes. It won't grow your eyelashes, but it will potentially help to cut down on lash breakage. But again, you want to be careful with petroleum jelly that close to the lash line that it might end up making its way into your eyes, which is not pleasant. Some people use petroleum jelly to remove makeup. It can break up cosmetic films, but in contrast to a cleansing oil, it doesn't have emulsifiers, so it doesn't rinse off the skin particularly efficiently. So while you can use it that way, that broken up cosmetic residue is kind of going to be more stuck on your face. Now, it will come off if you wash with a gentle cleanser, so it is one way to do it, but it's a lot more resistant to removal with water. So that's not something I do, but it is a popular thing that a lot of folks do. Some people wonder about petroleum jelly for hyperpigmentation. Petroleum jelly can help with fading certain types of dark spots depending on if they are related to issues surrounding the skin barrier. So indirectly. In other words, if you have, say, atopic dermatitis, you deal with a lot of flare-ups, and those flare-ups heal for you with hyperpigmentation, as is often the case with deeper skin tones, or on the flip side, hypopigmentation, often very common, pityriasis alba is the proper terminology for that, then yes, keeping your skin moisturized will help cut down on those flare-ups, reduce inflammation, reduce transepidermal water loss, and allow things to calm down so that those post-inflammatory pigmentary alterations, PIPA, can resolve. And petroleum jelly by itself is an excellent option. I think a lot of people have elevated petroleum jelly to the status of an anti-aging product. I mean, it's a great moisturizer, but it does not directly cut down on wrinkle formation per se. It won't reverse wrinkles. It doesn't build collagen back up in your skin like a topical retinoid would. Speaking of topical retinoids, let's talk about the order of appearance of when to put petroleum jelly on your face if that's what you're going to do. So petroleum jelly, unfortunately, you don't want to put it on really on your face as part of your morning routine because it really just kind of gets in the way, honestly, of good sunscreen, basically. Because if you put it on and then put sunscreen on over it, it's probably not going to set up. And you don't want to put sunscreen on and then put petroleum jelly on, it's going to remove it. You could use it in a few specific areas, but just be aware that it may be compromising the functionality, the integrity of your sunscreen. And that's the case with any really oily skincare product. You would never want to put it on over sunscreen. And a lot of times you'll get pilling of the sunscreen when you put really rich creams or oily skincare products on and then you try and put sunscreen on over it. So petroleum jelly to the entire face, it doesn't really fit in well with your morning skincare routine. In the nighttime skincare routine, it's generally the last step of your nighttime skincare routine to really lock everything in. That's really how people should use it to their entire face. If that's something you want to try, bearing in mind it can make you overheat. One thing about petroleum jelly ointments in general is that they can enhance penetration of ingredients because they are very occlusive. They kind of lock everything in place, so to speak. For example, a lot of topical medications that are in a petroleum jelly ointment base have enhanced potency. This is particularly true for topical steroids. A topical steroid ointment, the same steroid, the same percentage, is a lot more intense, if you will, than a cream or a lotion version of that. And a lot of that has to do with its longevity on the skin and it really locking the ingredient down in there. You get greater potency. So because of that, there is some concern that if you have certain active ingredients, such as a topical retinoid, and then you apply petroleum jelly on over, it can potentially increase the irritancy of those. So that's something to keep in mind, especially if you have a really complex skincare routine with a lot of different actives, like different acids, for example, that you're leaving on, as well as topical retinoids. You may end up getting more irritation putting petroleum jelly on because it's really going to lock in everything, okay? So that's another kind of caveat thing to be careful with for sure. But otherwise, it's wonderful to the entire face for many people. It doesn't work out for everyone because, like I said, it can slow down the evaporation of sweat. People who have very oily skin tend to find this a bit uncomfortable because they have so much sebum on their face anyway. To be putting a greasy ointment is like, no thanks. People who have rosacea, if they use really heavy creams and ointments and it slows down the evaporation of sweat and causes them to overheat, it might precipitate a flare-up for them. If you're going through menopause, you experience night sweats, last thing you want is to have something that is slowing down the evaporation of the sweat. You might wake up the following morning with miliaria, heat rash, which you mistake for an acne breakout. So those are just some little things to keep in mind when considering using petroleum jelly, aka Vaseline, to the entire face, but it's definitely an underrated skincare product for protecting the skin, lubricating the skin surface, facilitating healing of wounds, cuts, blisters, as a lip balm for dry, cracked lips, and for reducing chafing. You can be using it under the arms, in the skin folds to cut down on chafing, and ultimately a benefit of doing that is you cut down on breakdown of the skin barrier in those areas. You cut down subsequently then on abnormal microflora colonization that leads to malodor. So yeah, petroleum jelly indirectly may even help to a certain extent with body odor by lubricating the skin surface and cutting down on frictional forces. Also wonderful in theory for reducing potentially the formation of skin tags, which are thought to be brought out more frequently by repeated friction on the skin. All right, y'all, that is a roundup with regards to good old-fashioned, the glitterati version here, Vaseline petroleum jelly. Don't sleep on it. It is underrated. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.